welcome to Crime Time 911. Today, we're diving into one of the most infamous scams of the last decade, a story that blends social media hype, celebrity influence, and the promise of luxury into one giant, very public meltdown. I'm talking about the Fyre Festival. If you've ever scrolled Instagram and thought, wow, that looks too good to be true, this story is your cautionary tale. Because in 2017, thousands of people bought into a dream of a glamorous music festival in the Bahamas, complete with private villas, gourmet food, and performances by top artists. What they got instead was chaos, disaster relief tents, cheese sandwiches, and no music. But the Fyre Festival isn't just about a failed event. It's about how hype can be weaponized, how social media can sell illusions, and how one man, Billy McFarland, convinced investors, influencers, and festival goers to believe in something that never really existed. So grab your headphones because this one is a wild ride. So picture this. It's late 2016, and your Instagram feed suddenly lights up with a mysterious orange square. No explanation, no details, just a bright block of color. Then, one by one, some of the biggest names in fashion and entertainment start posting it too, all using the same hashtag Fyre Festival. It was cryptic, it was bold, and it worked. Within hours, people were buzzing. Within days, tickets were selling out. And within weeks, the Fyre Festival had become one of the most talked about events in the world before it even existed. The Fyre Festival was pitched as more than just a music event. It was marketed as a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Imagine this, a private island in the Bahamas, once owned by Pablo Escobar. White sand beaches, luxury villas, gourmet meals prepared by celebrity chefs, and a lineup of world-class artists performing under the stars. Billy McFarland, the entrepreneur behind the idea, and Ja Rule, the rapper who partnered with him, promised an escape that blurred the line between music festival and luxury vacation. They weren't just selling tickets, they were selling a lifestyle. The market campaign was nothing short of genius. Instead of traditional ads, they leaned into influencer culture. Models and celebrities were flown to the Bahamas for a glossy promotional shoot. The video showed them jet skiing, lounging on yachts, and dancing on the beach. The message was clear. If you came to Fyre Festival, you wouldn't just be attending a concert, you'd be living the dream life of the rich and famous. And the orange square? That was the hook. It created instant FOMO, fear of missing out. People didn't even know what the festival was yet, but they knew they wanted to be part of it. Tickets ranged from a few $100s for basic passes to over $2,500,000 for VIP packages. And they sold fast. But here's the thing. While the marketing was flawless, the planning was a disaster. The original island they promised? Gone. They lost the rights after using Escobar's name in promotions, which violated their agreement. So they moved the festival to Great Exuma, a beautiful island, but one without the infrastructure to host thousands of guests. Event planners warned McFarland that it wouldn't be possible to pull this off in the time frame. They needed months, even years, to build the kind of luxury experience being advertised. But instead of slowing down, McFarland doubled down. He kept selling tickets, kept promising villas and gourmet meals, even as his team scrambled to rent disaster relief tents and order mattresses at the last minute. Money was pouring in from investors, but much of it went to marketing and appearances rather than logistics. Behind the scenes, staff were working around the clock, trying to make the impossible happen. By April 2017, the first guests began to arrive. They had been promised luxury villas, but what they found were rows of white FEMA tents. They had been promised gourmet meals, but what they got was the now infamous styrofoam container with bread, cheese, and a slice of lettuce. The stages weren't ready. The artists had pulled out. Transportation was chaotic. Attendees were stranded at airports, unsure of what was happening. And then came the social media posts. Photos of the tents, the cheese sandwiches, the chaos. The glossy illusion of Fyre Festival collapsed in real time, and the world watched it unravel. The collapse of Fyre Festival wasn't just a failed event. It was a global spectacle. Within hours of the first guests arriving, Twitter and Instagram were flooded with images of disaster relief tents, piles of luggage dumped in the dark, and the infamous cheese sandwich. The glossy illusions of luxury was gone, replaced by chaos. Attendees were stranded, flights were delayed, and the Bahamian government had to step in to help manage the situation. The world wasn't just watching, it was laughing, sharing memes, and turning the festival into a cultural punchline. But for those on the ground, it was frightening and disorienting. The lawsuits came fast and furious. In total, 7 class action lawsuits were filed against Billy McFarland, Ja Rule, and Fyre Media. These suits accused them of fraud, misrepresentation, and breach of contract. One of the largest sought $100 million in damages, arguing that the festival had been marked as a luxury experience but delivered unsafe and inadequate conditions. The lawsuits didn't just come from attendees. Investors who had poured millions into the project also filed claims, alleging that McFarland had misled them with falsified financial documents and inflated revenue projections. The legal fallout also extended to the influencers who promoted the event. Questions were raised about whether celebrities like Kendall Jenner, who was reportedly paid $250,000 for a single Instagram post, should have disclosed that their endorsements were sponsored. This sparked a wider conversation about transparency in influencer marketing. One of the most heartbreaking parts of the story was the impact on local workers in the Bahamas. Dozens of laborers worked long hours to prepare the site, building tents, moving supplies, and trying to make the impossible happen. Many were never paid. The most famous example was Marianne Roll, a restaurant owner on Great Exuma, who provided catering for workers. She spent her own savings, tens of thousands of dollars, to feed staff and attendees, only to be left with nothing when the festival collapsed. Her story, featured in the Netflix documentary, sparked a GoFundMe campaign that raised over $200,000 to help her recover. For many Bahamians, the festival wasn't just a failed party. It was a betrayal that left lasting scars. By mid-2018, Billy McFarland's empire had crumbled. Prosecutors revealed that he had defrauded investors out of $26 million using falsified documents to secure funding. Even after the festival collapsed, while out on bail, he launched another scam called NYC VIP Access, selling fake tickets to events like the Met Gala and Coachella. That move sealed his fate. McFarland pled guilty to 2 counts of wire fraud and, in October 2018, was sentenced to 6 years in federal prison. He was also ordered to forfeit $26 million. At his sentencing, McFarland admitted he had been driven by ambition, but acknowledged that his decisions had caused real harm to investors, employees, and attendees. In 2019, the story got a second life with 2 competing documentaries: Netflix's Fyre, The Greatest Party That Never Happened, and Hulu's Fyre Fraud. The Netflix film highlighted the logistical nightmare and the unpaid workers, while the Hulu film focused more on influencer culture and even featured an interview with McFarland himself. Together, they cemented Fyre Festival's place in pop culture history, not just as a failed event, but as a symbol of the dangers of hype and unchecked ambition. The Fyre Festival fiasco became a case study in business schools, PR firms, and marketing circles. It raised questions about the ethics of influencer marketing, the responsibility of event organizers, and the risk of selling a dream without a plan. For attendees, it was a costly lesson. For investors, it was a financial disaster. And for the workers in the Bahamas, it was a betrayal that highlighted the human cost of McFarland's deception. The Fyre Festival didn't just fail, it became a cultural landmark. Even years later, whenever an event goes wrong, people say, well, at least it's not Fyre Festival. The memes kept it alive. That photo of the cheese sandwich, it became iconic, a symbol of how quickly hype can collapse. For younger generations, it was a reminder that Instagram perfection doesn't always match reality. One of the most lasting legacies of Fyre Festival was the conversation it sparked about influencer accountability. The event showed just how powerful a single Instagram post could be. That Orange Square campaign sold thousands of tickets in days. But it also raised tough questions. Should influencers be required to disclose when they're being paid? What responsibility do they have to vet the products or events they promote? After Fyre, the U.S. Federal Trade Commission, FTC, tightened its guidelines requiring clearer disclosure of sponsored posts. For brands, Fyre became a cautionary tale. Hype without substance can destroy credibility overnight. Circling back to the Netflix and Hulu documentaries, both films raised their own ethical questions. Hulu reportedly paid MacFarlane for his interview, which critics argued blurred the line between journalism and rewarding bad behavior. Netflix, meanwhile, was co-produced by Jerry Media, the very marketing company that had promoted Fyre Festival in the first place. That raised eyebrows about whether the film was truly objective. Still, the documentaries did more than just entertain. They tapped into a broader cultural fascination with scams, showing how easily people can be seduced by exclusivity and hype. After serving nearly 4 years of his 6-year sentence, Billy MacFarlane was released from prison in 2022. Almost immediately, he began talking about redemption. By 2023, he was teasing a new project, Fyre Festival 2. Against all odds, he claimed he was planning a second festival, this time with proper planning and transparency. He announced dates in Mexico, with tickets ranging from about $1,400 to over $1 million. The announcement was met with disbelief. Who would buy tickets after the first disaster? Yet, some people did. MacFarlane leaned into the notoriety, arguing that Fyre was still one of the most recognizable festival brands in the world. But the comeback fizzled. Plans for Fyre Festival 2 collapsed almost as quickly as they were announced. By mid-2025, MacFarlane had even sold the Fyre brand on eBay for just over $245,000. It was a far cry from the millions he once raised, and it marked the end of his attempts to revive the name. So what's the legacy of Fyre Festival? It's a mix of cautionary tale and cultural phenomenon. It changed how we think about influencer marketing, it exposed the risks of hype culture, and it reminded us that behind every glossy Instagram post, there might be a different reality. And for Billy MacFarlane, it's a story of ambition, deception, and an attempted comeback that never quite landed. The Fyre Festival wasn't just a failed event. It became a mirror reflecting the culture of the late 2010s. It showed us how easily people could be swept up in hype, how powerful social media can be in shaping our choices, and how dangerous it is when ambition outpaces reality. At its core, Fyre was about trust. Attendees trusted the glossy marketing, investors trusted the financial projections, influencers trusted, or at least endorsed, the brand they were paid to promote. And when that trust collapsed, the fallout was massive. The Orange Square campaign worked because it tapped into FOMO. People weren't just buying tickets to a festival, they were buying access to a lifestyle, a curated image of exclusivity. But as we saw, that image was hollow. The festival became a case study in how perception can outpace reality and how dangerous it is when marketing is prioritized over substance. It also highlighted the performative natures of social media. Many attendees admitted later that they bought tickets not just for the experience, but for the content they could post. Fyre Festival was designed to be Instagrammable, and in a way, it succeeded, just not in the way anybody had expected. For businesses, the Fyre Festival has become a textbook example of what not to do. Analysts and marketing experts point out that the biggest lesson is about transparency. If you can't deliver on a promise, you shouldn't make it in the first place. The event also revealed the limits of influencer marketing. Celebrity endorsements and star power might sell tickets, but they can't build infrastructure or replace proper planning. And that leads to another hard truth. Execution is everything. A brilliant idea without a solid plan is nothing more than a fantasy. Finally, the festival underscored just how fragile brand trust really is. Once it's broken, it's nearly impossible to repair. As one marketing case study put it, the branding for Fyre Festival was flawless, but branding alone can't sustain a business without real value behind it. It's also important to remember the human side of the story. For attendees, it was a nightmare trip. For investors, it was a financial disaster. And for the Bahamian workers who had labored without pay, it was a betrayal that left lasting scars. The GoFundMe campaign for Marianne Roll, the caterer who lost her savings feeding workers, was one of the few bright spots. A reminder that even in the middle of a fiasco, people can come together to help. Fyre Festival also tapped into something bigger, our cultural obsession with exclusivity. The promise of being part of something elite, something not everyone could access, was the real product being sold. And that's why people were willing to spend thousands of dollars without asking too many questions. It's a reminder that scarcity and status are powerful motivators, but they can also blind us to the red flags. So what's the legacy of Fyre Festival? It's a cautionary tale about ambition, deception, and the dangers of chasing clout. But it's also a reminder of the power of storytelling, because years later, we're still talking about it. The next time you see a glossy ad or a perfectly curated Instagram post, maybe you'll pause and ask, is this real or is it just another fire? Then that's the story of the Fyre Festival fraud. From the dream that sold itself to the fallout to the legacy it left behind. What do you think about this case? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to hit that follow button so you never miss an episode. Thanks for listening to Crime Time 911. Stay safe, stay curious, and remember to always trust your gut.